Hello and welcome to today's edition of the Daf Yomi. Today's Daf is Daf 88 Bava Metzia, Tractate Bava Metzia. Let's look at Bava Metzia. So, it says, until it sees the front of the house through which people enter and exit, and is brought into the house through that entrance, as this is stated in the formula of the declaration of the tithes, I have removed the consecrated from the house, Deuteronomy 26:13, which indicates that the obligation of tithe produce, whose purpose has not yet been designated, applies only when it is brought into the house. And Rabbi Yochanan says, so what's the footnote? The Rabbi Yochanan Amar. The commentaries note that this dispute is found in Jerusalem Talmud Tractate Masorot, with the opinions of Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yanai reversed. Even bringing produce into the courtyard determines Afina Chatzer V'Kovas, untied produce becomes subject to the halachot of tithe only when it is brought into someone's house, provided it is brought through the entrance. If after the produce has been brought into the house, one ate it without separating teruma and tithes, he is liable to receive lashes by Torah. If one brought produce into his house via rooftops or other enclosures by Torah, it is exempt from the halacha of tithe. By rabbinic law, there are 6 possible criteria which subject untied produce to the halacha of tithe. If the produce is brought into one's courtyard, purchased, cooked, pickled, if teruma is separated from it, and if Shabbat arrives, all 6 criteria all 6 criteria determine whether the produce is subject to the halachot of tithe only after the completion of the produce's work. The commentators disagree as to whether the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yanai or Rabbi Yochanan. Some claim that the Rambam rules in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yanai because he was Rabbi Yochanan's teacher. The Kesef Mishnah adds that whenever it is stated that a courtyard determines that the production process of the produce has been completed and that the produce is therefore subject to tithe, this applies to rabbinic law. See Nekudat HaKesef, citing the Shach, others rule that the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, that by Torah law, bringing the produce into a courtyard determines that the production process of the produce has been completed, and that the produce is therefore subject to tithe. And that's in the Rambam Sefer Zeraim, Yechad Maaseh 4:1, Shulchan Aruch Yoredeah 331-83, and the Levush and the Bura Hagor there. That the production process of the produce has been completed and the production is therefore subject to tithe, as is stated in the confession of the tithe. I have given to the Levite, the stranger, and the orphan, and the widow, and they shall eat in your gates and be satisfied. Deuteronomy 26:12. The Gemara asks, but according to Rabbi Yochanan, also isn't it written from the house? The Gemara answers, he could have said to you that the term house is not to be taken literally. Rather, it indicates that bringing untied produce into a courtyard is similar to bringing it into a house in the following way. Just as the house is a secured area, so too the courtyard must be secured. Chasa hamishta meres. One is obligated to bring tithes from produce that has been brought into a secured courtyard, or into a courtyard that is private enough that one is not ashamed to eat, or into a courtyard where strangers cannot enter without their reason for entry being questioned. And that's when the Rambam Sefer Zeraim Hilchot Maaseh 4:8. An area that is accessible to the public is not considered a courtyard for the purposes of this halacha. The Gemara asks, and according to Rabbi Yanai also, isn't it written in your gates? The Gemara answers, that term is necessary to teach that this halacha, that the production process is considered complete, applies only when one brings the produce into the house through the gate. court or courtyard determines that produce is subject to the halacha of tithe only if that produce was brought into it through the entrance gate. And then the Bava Metzia for Zerayim Chad Ma'aseh 4:1 Shulchan Aruch Yodeh in 3183. I, the entranceway, to the exclusion of produce that was brought in through rooftops and enclosures, in which case the produce is not subject to tithe. Rabbi Chanina Choza'ah raised an objection from a statement of the Bava mentioned earlier in 87b. The term at your own pleasure, kanafshechta, can also mean, I just check that word, kanafshecha, can also mean as you are. Consequently, the term kanafshecha teaches that just as the halacha is concerning the owner of the vineyard himself, so is halacha concerning the labor himself. Just as the owner alluded to by the term neshavtecha, navshecha, so he may eat from the produce before his labor is complete and is exempt from separating tithes. So to the labor himself may eat and exempt from tithes. The objection of Rabbi Chanina Choza'ah is as follows. This indicates that only an owner and a laborer may eat from produce without tithing it, but one who buys produce is obligated by Torah to separate tithes before partaking of it. What? Is it not correct to conclude that this is the halacha even when he purchased the produce while it is still in the field, i.e. he is obligated to tithe the produce even though it has not entered his house or courtyard? Rav Papa said, I'm a Rav Papa, Hacha Bis'ana v'halmedes begina v'nofa noted lechaze askinan uman the amabayis labayis. Rav Papa said, here in the Braita we are dealing with a fig tree that is standing in a garden. Bis'ana v'omedes begina. The early commentators are puzzled by Rav Papa's suggestion, as this fruit is not brought to the entranceway. One explanation is that the fig tree grows in such a manner that its branches do in fact reach into the entranceway of the courtyard or house and do not pass over the walls to survive it. Others suggest that the fact that the figs grow inside the courtyard or house fulfills the requirement of seeing the front of the house, as derived in the Ramban. Yet others maintain that the leaning of the branches into the courtyard or house is itself equivalent to the fruit being brought through the entranceway. See Torah Chaim. Outside the courtyard, and it leaves leaning into the courtyard. Where was I? Or according to the one who says the obligation to separate tithes applies when the produce is brought into the house. The branches are leaning into the house. Therefore the produce entered the courtyard or house. The Gemara asks, if so, the homeowner himself, not only the buyer, should also be obligated to separate tithes, as the produce is either the courtyard or the house. Is it in either the courtyard or the house? The Gemara answers, the homeowner's eyes are on his fig tree, i.e. his primary concern is the tree, not its produce, and the main part of the tree is outside the courtyard. But the buyer's eyes are on his purchase, i.e. its focus is on the produce itself, which is in the space of the courtyard or house. The Gemara asks, and is the buyer obligated by Torah to tithe the produce he purchases? But isn't it taught in a Braita, for what reason were the shops in Beit Hino? What's Beit Hino? Apparently this is the same town in which other sources called Bethania, from the name Bethania or Beit Hanan. This was probably a village quite close to Jerusalem, not far from the Mount of Olives. It was destroyed during the early days of the Great Revolt in 66 CE, during the protracted siege on Jerusalem before Jerusalem itself was destroyed. A town near Jerusalem destroyed 3 years before the destruction of Jerusalem itself. Shalosh Shanim Kodem Yerushalayim. 3 years is the amount of time allotted for removal of tithes from one's possession. Only 26:12:13. Consequently, some suggest that Beit Hinon's destruction occurred specifically 3 years prior to that of Jerusalem, as a consequence of the townspeople's belittling of the halach of tithe in Yaakov. It was because they based their practice strictly on matters of Torah, I did not adhere to rabbinic safeguards. The Brisa explains that they would say that a buyer need not tithe the produce he purchases, as derives from the verse, and you shall tithe all the produce of your planting, which is brought forth in the field year by year, and you shall eat before the Lord your God. Deuteronomy 14:22-23. So that moved on to Omid B, and I wish you all the best. Have a good week, and peace in Israel. Take care. Bye.